Hi, I'm Danny with Skinner Guitars, and today I'm going to show you how I built this beautiful guitar out of some scrap wood and clear deep pour epoxy. So let's get started. I know everyone has seen epoxy mixed and poured at this point, and my method is no different from how you've seen it done before, but I wanted it to look like real ice. Real ice isn't crystal clear. It has tiny bubbles and some cloudy areas here and there. So I mixed it a bit aggressively and poured it when it was over 100 degrees in my shop. This gave me exactly the effect I was after. I knew I was going to be flattening this slab and removing a lot of material from the top and the bottom, so this petrified foam layer on top didn't discourage me. This whole concept was an experiment, so I wasn't heavily emotionally invested in perfection. In fact, the goal was imperfection. I wanted it to look like it had occurred in nature. The more material I removed on my router sled, the happier I was with my results. Once I got my slab flattened on both sides, I made 2 straight edges with my track saw and squared up the opposing edges on my table saw. I sand down the rough texture the flattening process always leaves behind on the slab. I draw the outline of the guitar shape I wanted for this guitar, and I cut along that line with my bandsaw. I didn't capture that part of the process, but if you watch my channel for more than 2 videos, you're going to see me doing it a lot. In fact, when you're done watching this one, you should definitely go do that. Here's that body shape I went with. It's very Strat-like, but also has an offset to it. I'm a sucker for an offset body. I love the movement and the flow of the lines. Here I'm using my full-size router to profile the edge of the body. I'm using a 1-inch roundover bit. As such, it's the right tool for the job. I much prefer to use my trim router whenever possible, but in this case, that would be a ridiculous proposition. Can you imagine? LOL. It's always important to wear a respirator in a woodworking shop, but it's even more so when working with epoxy. I don't actually know that for sure, but I'm really good at thinking in general. And I think it makes sense to avoid inhaling tiny airborne plastic particulate. And it smells carcinogen-esque. It'll probably give you cancer. Remember all those little bubbles I was trying not to avoid on purpose? Well, I only wanted them on the inside. I still want the surface to be as smooth as glass. Thankfully, nature provided us with the perfect solution: CA glue. So I spend a truly endless amount of time filling the holes and then scraping the buildup back down to surface level. I'd rather light my head on fire and then put it out with a dinner fork than do anything even remotely like this again. It makes the sanding feel like a day at the beach. And many of you already know how I feel about sanding. I always start my body cavity routes with the neck pocket. It allows me to put a neck in place so I can use it to locate the positions of the bridge and pickups. I hold a straight edge against the sides of the neck and project the lines out to the end of the body with a pencil. I mark the center of the space between those 2 lines, and it gives me the ability to roughly locate my body routes. I say roughly at this point because I get very nitpicky about the bridge location in a bit. I use a Forstner bit to hog out the majority of the pickup routes to give my router as little to do as possible. I secure my router template and use my trim router to clean up just the edges and bottom of my pickup routes. Here I've done the whole CA glue and painter's tape trick to hold my template in place. I don't always do it. I find it to be a lot of extra steps. Most of the time I'll just tape or clamp my template down. I can see the comments already, which I welcome. Just know that I do this a lot. Maybe even as much as you do. For those of you who felt ripped off that I didn't show the body blank epoxy pour, this one's for you. This is actually a mold for 2 neck blanks with long sticks of maple, mahogany, and walnut for structural rigidity. I didn't know if it would work, but it does. It works well. Due to the nature of my concepts and the materials I work with, most of what I do is experimental in nature. A lot of what I learn along the way will be applied to future concepts, but much of it is one-off stuff that may never be done again. This truss rod jig I made is one of the things I use on every neck, no matter what. I use double action truss rods in all my builds. After masking off my truss rod, I glued down the fretboard. I went with sapele for this one. I clamp it well throughout its entire length. And 12 to 24 hours later, you pull the clamps. This is a 25.5-inch scale length guitar, so I grab that fret spacing template and begin laying out my fretboard. I do this part while the sides of the neck are still square to the ends. At my bandsaw, I cut to my final dimensions and clean it up on my belt sander. I drill the headstock holes for my tuning machines. I do this while the neck blank is still full thickness, in case I get any tear out. And I sand the headstock down to its final thickness on my oscillating belt sander. I use my Shinto rasp to shape my neck profile. I used to do this in a very precise and calculated way, using measured and marked faceting, but now I just kinda go. I follow my heart, and it always ends up the way I want it. Muscle memory, I guess. That said, I will be doing a full video on fasting soon, but I've done a couple of long form videos that weren't full guitar builds, and I'm gonna do at least one more full build before I do something else again. I use a band of 80 grit sandpaper to clean up the tooth marks from my Shinto rasp. Then I go up through the grits until I get about 320, call it done. I don't have a fretboard slotting jig or anything, so I use the end of my level as a guide for my saw to keep the blade plumb. I use simple oak dowels as position markers. I drill a shallow hole, add a drop of glue, jam a dowel in, and cut it off flush with my flush cut saw. To radius my fretboard, I use a 9.5-inch radius sanding block with 80 grit paper. I only apply pressure in one direction. Going back and forth will cause the middle to wear faster than the ends, which is bad. I radius my fret wire just slightly tighter than the fretboard radius. This causes the ends to push out laterally as the middle is seated, causing the barbs to set more positively, reducing the chance that they might pop up. I add some thin CA glue to each slot prior to setting each fret. This is likely unnecessary, but it's just something I've always done. My frets don't pop up, so I keep doing it. I like to tap in both ends of the fret first, and then tap the middle to promote that sideways thing I mentioned. Once all the frets are in, I use a fret end filing block to file the fret wire flush with the edge of the fretboard. I then use a safe edge file to shape the ends into beautiful hemispheres. I tape off the fretboard to do the rest of the fretwork. One might ask, why would anyone level brand new frets that were just installed? And that's a great question. The answer is, fret wire manufacturing tolerances are less tight than the guitar playing good tolerances. I have a whole series of fretwork shorts on my channel that cover each of these steps. I show you how to do each step in 15 seconds, including this one, crowning. I go over each fret with 1500, 2000, and then 2500 grit sandpaper. Then with a buffing wheel on my Dremel, I use rubbing compound followed by polishing compound. Now for the moment I know I've been waiting for, sanding. Now seems like a good time to remind you that if you like watching me do this stuff, there's no better way to support me than to like, subscribe, comment, and share. It's free for you and it really helps me. Thanks so much in advance. I went with a true oil finish on this one. I don't think I like it better than the wipe-on poly if I'm being honest. I did 15 coats of true oil, separated by 6 hours and a rub down with triple-aught steel wool between coats. I feel like I could have gotten at least as good of a finish with wipe-on poly and it would probably be more durable. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I used my extra long 3/8 inch bit to connect all my cavities. Installed some very nice locking tuners. I conditioned my fretboard with mineral oil. Remember when I said I was going to get real particular about positioning my bridge? Well, now it's time for that. Same steps as before, but with the actual neck, not a surrogate. It makes a difference. With the tuning gear in place and temporary nut, I can use dental floss on both E-strings to make sure everything lines up perfectly. With the bridge in exactly the right spot, I can position the pickups so that the poles will line up directly under each string. It's worth noting that the appropriate size screwdriver is important for these last little jobs. Keeping all the finished screws in pristine condition is a sign of quality craftsmanship, and we already went to all this trouble. Am I right? I feel right. Shielding is one of the most hotly debated topics in the world of guitars. Some guys say it's not necessary, other guys say it's essential. According to the comments on my shielding video, some guys want to become violently ill if they see it done in a way that they don't like. Those guys have never looked inside of their guitar. So after one last rub down with quadruple-aught steel wool, I gave this thing the old polishing treatment. I polished the holy garbage out of it. I polished it like a show car. I polished it like my life depended on it. I polished it like if I could just make it shine brightly enough, each and every one of you would like and subscribe. Don't let my sacrifice be in vain. Anywho, time to button this thing up. I solder my final connections, screw my final screws, tighten my final nuts. Speaking of nut, I had to make a nut. I could make a whole video on the process of making a nut. I mean, it's not going to be this one. I did the string spacing, I determined how deep to slot it. I used these special tapered nut slotting files designed for the right gauge strings. Profiled it real pretty, polished it up, and stuck it on. I hope you had as much fun watching this as I had making it. Thanks for watching.
you.